Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 8th Disability Advisory Board meeting. And we have Cynthia here and Michelle and myself, so we do have a quorum, so we can move forward. A couple of us are under the weather. I think COVID has stricken again, so we'll try to not cough our way through the meeting, but we're here and we're going to go ahead and get through this. Do I have a motion? I'll make a motion to approve the August 9th, 2023 meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, Cynthia. And all in favor, raise your hand. Aye. We're safe.
Aye. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks. Wanted to take the opportunity to announce that we still have 3 open positions. We need 2 full members and 1 alternate. So if anyone is interested in applying for the position, please send your resume to admin@lmt.org to our township manager, and you can send your resume and set up an interview and hopefully become a member. Any questions, feel free to email us or give the township a call. Our email is DAB, that's Disability Advisory Board, @lmt.org. And you can ask any questions. You can look on the township website for what our mission statement is, and our brochure is out there, so you can find out a little bit about what we do. So I did want to say that our last meeting, our email was not working, but I was able to get that working, and have been checking it, and I'll forward any emails that I find, that are interesting for all of us to read. I also posted the agenda on the LMT website for the first time. I didn't realize I had to do that, but I think I have to include on the bottom the instructions for call-in. But if anybody's watching from home, I believe the call-in instructions are on the, on the bottom of the Facebook page. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to call in with those instructions. I also just like to bring up that, it's nice to be acknowledged. Sometimes I noticed in the paper, there was an article about the Secret Garden Playground, along with many of the other inclusive playgrounds, but it's always nice to see that, it's getting some attention, and that it is, one of the premier inclusive playgrounds in Bucks County. So I just have the link to, if anybody wanted to read the phillyburbs.com story about all of the inclusive playgrounds that are in Bucks County. So again, it's just nice to see that that's always acknowledged. The next item is just wanted to alert people that we have had 2 inquiries about the Prickett Preserve apartments. Now we know, they're being built, they have just opened, and these are 3-level apartments. And it is interesting because people with disabilities, I guess I didn't realize that if you have a disability, maybe you don't want to be on the first floor. So obviously the first floor is accessible. That's where there are apartments that for anyone that has a disability, you would be able to go onto their first floor. But we've had 2 inquiries where people would like to be on the 2nd or 3rd floor just because they don't feel safe. So, if you have a disability, maybe you feel like you're vulnerable being on the first floor and you want to be on the 2nd floor. But Prickett Preserve does not have elevators. And so, one of the people had said that they're totally not accessible. Well, that's not true. They are providing accessibility on first floor apartments. So you can't say that they're totally inaccessible. So, that is one thing that we have here, is a problem with accessible apartments in Bucks County. And the only one that we could really think of was maybe the Grundy Towers in Levittown, but that's not in Yardley. So I didn't know if we wanted to open this up, just for some small discussion here between us. But Michelle, do you have something to?
I do. And I'll caveat that because I questioned it when we reviewed the plans. Dave confirmed our former member, who's well versed on ADA, that the only requirement would be that it would be first floor accessibility. There's no elevators in there. So that sort of dismisses second or third floor, which I, as a person with a disability, would obviously also like to have. I may also interject, I just found out what the prices are of them, and it's ridiculously cost prohibitive for somebody who's on a fixed income with disabilities and challenges. And so that's one thing, you know, as we always explored in the community, where is affordable housing? Well, in Bucks County, there's no affordable housing, as we all know right now, but, you know, over $3,000 a month rental on those apartments without easy accessibility, which even from a parking perspective, that I questioned how many parking spaces. They're on the opposite side to the apartments, which I find challenging as a person with a disability. I certainly wouldn't pay over $3,000 a month to live in that, which is a challenge. So I think that's something that we have to explore if there's even an opportunity from our community, or, you know, even within Bucks County, that we can find some affordable housing for people. I know the apartments down near Boscov's and things like that. But Cynthia, do you have any other thoughts on this?
I would say the Presbyterian Towers in Morrisville,
Mhm,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
they definitely have elevators.
Right. So the point is basically they're in compliance because they do have accessible apartments, but it's not something, number one, that's affordable, it sounds like. And number two, what a lot of people with disabilities find desirable as far as living arrangements. So, you know, that is a shame. Now, as far as the parking situation, Michelle, if you're stating that the parking is across the street,
Not across the street, but imagine that your ADA parking is directly attached to the apartments. Well, when we reviewed the plans, unless they've changed, in accordance with Wegmans also, the ADA parking for the apartments was on the opposite side of the parking lot. So imagine you have to cross to get to the second layer for ADA parking. And I asked Dave, I said, is this correct? He goes, well, as long as there's X number of spots that meets the ADA criteria, which I just find, truthfully, I find ADA parking baffling.
it's supposed to be the closest to the accessible.
Correct.
entrance.
It was supposed to be the closest. So I would assume. Now, the other question I have is, when we say that there's handicap accessible apartments in there, yeah, I think there may be one per building.
Right.
That's in compliance. So it's back to the, you know, without being a Debbie Downer here, but, you know, as a person with a mobility challenge, you start looking at some of these things. There's really not a heck of a lot of opportunity. Like Cynthia said, there's really, and then you want to layer on being on a second floor without a walk up. There's really some challenges. So I definitely empathize with, you know, residents that emailed you on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I know that there's several, I guess a couple of the buildings are open, so we might want to take a ride over, maybe I'll take a ride over just to see if they're making progress on some of the parking.
No,
And
that would be great. I mean,
yeah,
I've
just
reached
to
out.
see what they're up to right now. Do they have accessible parking outside of each apartment building? They obviously are going to have it outside of the clubhouse, but
Right.
we'll go ahead and maybe take a look at that.
I would love to come. I mean, I've tried to reach out via email and
Yeah.
phone, and I've not gotten any reply. Now, I don't know how many of those apartments are rented at this point, but it seems like they're moving warp speed post-pandemic. So,
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's people already living in there amongst
interesting. Okay.
construction. Yeah.
Thank you.
CVS is open, so
Well, I know, and they closed the one on Edgewood Village.
yeah,
So we
yeah.
found that out this weekend as I needed to go get medicine.
Well, that kind of moves directly into our next topic, which is elevators. So John Lewis, our liaison, Board of Supervisor liaison, had forwarded an email that he became aware of. House Bill 1761 was being introduced by a couple, but House representatives, Brian Monroe, who's a Democrat, I forget which county, but this is he's requiring all new apartment buildings and condominiums with 2 or more floors to have at least 2 elevators. And if everybody can remember, a couple of years ago, there was, I guess, up in Western Bucks County earlier this year, a 55 and older community in Warminster Township. It was struck by lightning, and then their elevator was out of order. So a lot of the residents that lived on the upper floors were unable to get anywhere for, I don't know how long it was, but it was more than 7 weeks. Yeah, it says more than 7 weeks. So, if they could not use the stairs, they were basically stuck in their homes, missed appointments, unable to go out and get their food, grocery shop, put out their trash. So they felt that, in buildings that have a need for an elevator, that there should be 2 elevators. So if one is non-functioning, that they would have always the other one. I mean, obviously, if there was something out of their control where both were, down and there's nothing they can do, that's different. So Cynthia had offered to write a letter of support. John thought maybe if we wrote a letter of support to these representatives, it would help. Michelle, do you want to read the letter? Do you have that?
I actually, is it on the agenda? I can review it. Thinking out of the box, because this just happened at the Sheraton in Raleigh. 2 of the 3 elevators were out of service, and they were not anticipating fixing them. Can you imagine a wedding party in a conference hotel? It was like, I truthfully don't know how that bill's going to pass from a cost prohibitive perspective unless X number of apartment buildings are in accordance with the specs. It's extremely cost prohibitive, I'm sure, but I would definitely read it. And I would love to get as many representatives supporting that. It's just horrible to hear that. I mean,
Right.
Yeah, especially for a 55 plus community.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. I mean, you can put them in for $35,000. People are doing it down at the beach right now. And it's, I would think that there's got to be some kind of criteria ratio for the bill to pass that would approve how many residents live in X number of floors to have 2 elevators. But you would have to have 2 elevators.
Yeah, I
Especially,
think if you read the bill, it says at least 3 households in the building and 2 stories or more, which
okay.
it's pretty stringent, right? Because
Yeah.
that's not a very big building. And
No, and it's, 2 elevators, you're talking about $100,000 clip if it's an industrial elevator. And so, the question here, we go back to economics of a $3,200 a month, by the way, apartment right off of 95. You got to make those dimes work. I don't mean to be like, it's reality 101. I can't imagine, but it's not fair to somebody who needs that elevator. And I can't imagine being cooped up in an apartment for 7 weeks.
No.
well, when the idea came up with the letter of endorsement, I thought that too, but then I thought, well, is that really, I guess, part of our mission to
No, it's not. It's not our. Yeah.
advocate because it would be good for disabled people.
Oh,
So,
I absolutely agree. I think we
it's
should
example.
support it. I mean, count me in on, I will read the letter of endorsement. I think from a policy brain perspective, I just can't imagine how you would sell that. You would have to really do a hard sell. And
Yeah,
I would sell it. You know, it's just,
yeah. I saw in New York City, they don't even require an elevator until you have a building that has at least 5 stories.
that's what I was trying to figure out. I mean,
So,
three
yes,
families, three families, 2 elevators, that's pretty lush.
Yeah, my daughter lives in a building with 5 stories and there's no elevator.
And you know what? Then you get into, here we go, you know, the majority of some of the older buildings that could be lofts that could be converted. Then you got a grandfather clause. Do you even put what kind of elevator in there? You know, there's all kinds of challenges. I mean, I was just thinking about some of those hotels that are in Lancaster County and things like that. So
basically you're saying this bill, the way I could not find what you're looking at, Michelle, Cynthia, as far as saying it had to be 2 stories and 3, that's it? 3 apartments?
well, that was just going back to it's an amendment, right, to an existing bill for construction. And so, yeah, so they were saying that it would be, at least 3 households in the building. And then it said constructed apartments and condominiums. And to me, condominium, you could have a townhouse condominium, and you certainly wouldn't expect somebody to have an elevator in their townhouse if they.
yeah, I mean, I would assume that that's going to really jump your fees. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. So it's pretty, it's not very detailed, the amendment. So they might have some problems there, but maybe once it gets into committee, then they start to flesh it out more. I don't know what the process is. You two probably have been involved with this before, endorsing these bills. So I didn't really understand that part of it.
I thought I read somewhere where the building codes was if you, something about square footage, like 3,000 square feet on every level. So to me, that's not 3. Well, I guess it could be just 3 apartments. But if there was some kind of code, you know, as far as obviously not every apartment building that goes up with more than 3 households would require 2 elevators. So yeah, this is a little confusing. So, I mean, I guess we are supportive of the mission. You know, if you have an over 55 building or you have a building with 5 stories, like it makes total sense that you would need, you know, 2 elevators in that situation. But I wouldn't even, you know, again, coming from an economic standpoint, this is never going to pass if it's this narrow. I mean, nobody in their right mind is going to say you have 3 apartments and you're going to have to put in 2 elevators for $100,000. So
yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from. So if we're within we're an advocacy group that's supporting within Bucks County a legislative proposal, great. Is it going to fly the way it is? Like Cynthia said, you flush it out, it's numbers. Yeah, anything's possible.
yeah,
you could put an elevator in your house for $35,000 these days.
Yeah.
So we can, I mean, I gladly would support it. It's just the lawmakers and the contractor associations and the ADA people, that's where it starts getting involved with lobbyists and things like that. So
I'd like to reach out to maybe Representative Warren and just ask him his thoughts on, maybe we're missing something. So maybe just to get a little more information on what, who it would impact, because like I said, we're all for common sense bill to have an over 55.
Correct.
You know, you need 2 elevators. You can't strand, you know, people like that for 7 weeks. So,
well, and I mean, it's,
so we're looking for the
safety
common sense. So is it not common sense and it'll never pass if it's forcing this economic, burden on too many small, apartment complexes. So I think that's what I would just like clarification maybe before we, again, we definitely should support it. Maybe just get a little bit more information, and then from Representative Warren, and
It definitely ties in with the affordability that Michelle was talking about.
There you go, and that's where my brain's thinking tonight. I had a really long day, but I would. It goes back to the affordability positioning. I mean, if I was sitting at the table of decision makers, I couldn't justify that. I really, even as a lobbyist on the other table, I'd be like, this is a heck of a lot of money. I mean, you're the only one who's going to, be penalized on that is the person writing the check for the payment of the place.
Yeah.
Anything's possible.
Yeah. Okay. We'll follow up on that, but Cynthia did write the letter, so we have it.
Right. Just a start, but
it's very just more supportive and nothing more. And then we'll get a little more information.
The list of recipients also. He said to do that committee. That's a big committee.
Yeah.
All those members on that Housing and Community Committee. Big.
Right. I was going to say, who's co-sponsoring the bill? Could we reach? It's a house. It's an HB, right? It's
Yeah.
So that's why I said Perry Warren was listed.
That's what I was going to say, because I'd say reach out to Steve.
But
no, he's Senate. It's an okay. At least at least we're bringing the focal point as an advocacy group for people with disabilities in Bucks County that something needs to change.
Yeah.
And that's I think the important part of it. So I'm definitely in favor of supporting that.
Okay. All right, then we're just going to move on. We have next, I just wanted to bring everybody up to speed. The Makefield Study Group, their last meeting is going to be next week, November 14th, before they submit their proposals, I guess, to the Board of Supervisors. So I will attend that, and I'll just update you, if I find out anything. Other things, the Parks and Rec projects, I like to get an update from Monica, the Parks and Rec director, and just to continue to follow up. The 5 Mile Woods, they had, received a grant for $10,000, and they got additional money from the Board of Supervisors, and they did do a nice path within the trail system, but they are asking for additional funds to extend the path to another path within the trail system. So they're the total cost they're looking at would be $40,000, and it's going to be 710 linear feet and 5 feet wide. So it's a nice width for any wheelchair to navigate that. But they are looking for a little bit more funds, and this would link up to already an existing pathway, and it'll extend that linear feet. So that's exciting. The Memorial Secret Garden, I did go up there. Remember the last time I spoke, someone had removed the sign. So it had, Secret Garden, inclusive playground, dedicated on October, of 2013, might have been, I can't remember. But that sign was removed. No one in the township knows who removed it. But in any case, 2 weeks ago, they replaced it. So if you go up there, there's a nice new sign, and it says Secret Garden, looks exactly the same. But I think it's, we definitely need it. I think the whole purpose was for people to understand that it was a special park. It was inclusive playground. So that's exciting that is back. I did ask Monica about the grant, and she's saying that they're in budget discussions, and the shade structures and the rubberized surface are going to be recommended by the Parks and Rec Board in 2024. So I'm hoping that that'll get approved and, done. Veterans Park, they're still in the design phase. As you know, they didn't receive the grant, so I know that they're reworking that design. The pool bathrooms continued that, the project is much more expensive than was anticipated, but that it'll, of course, include accessibility once they're able to move forward with the whole pool master plan. The community center, Monica, just wanted to reiterate that it's still a problem with parking there. And it's not just during the bus trips, it is during every Wednesday and Friday. I guess that's maybe when the seniors meet, and then every other Tuesday or one Tuesday a month when they have their meeting. So it's just something that we're going to have to continue to look into. And our only involvement would be to recommend maybe additional parking and then another accessible way in that on the side door if they put additional parking on that side. And then she talks about some additional playground. There's a small playground that's being updated. And then she does want to review the ADA transition plan and maybe how we can incorporate some of the programming. So maybe the children's programming. So she just wanted to brainstorm on that. So as we get closer to her planning on that, she would like to get us involved. So that's it that I had from the Parks and Rec. Next would be building plan review. I think Michelle had an update for us.
I actually reached out to Jim. I have not had any updates. I mean, the focal point was clearly on Prickett, Wegmans. Nothing else seems to be going on at this point.
Okay, I think I did send you an email with his updates. Did you not receive that?
No,
You
I've
missed
been
it.
away because of the wedding thing. I'm so
Okay.
sorry if you
Yep.
can.
So I'll just go over, I did send the email, but I do have it here.
Okay.
The Prickett plan updates. He was just stating, this is Jim Majewski.
Yeah.
He's updating us. The new Chase Bank and CVS Pharmacy are now open, as we all know. There are 3 apartment buildings that are now occupied, and they will have a new building ready for occupancy every month going forward. So there you go. That's all of them within, I don't know how many apartment buildings there are, 8. They'll be open in the next 6 months.
So 8 units. So there's one disability apartment within each unit, correct? That's how I was.
That I don't know for sure. No,
I think that's how it was. That's what I want to double check.
Yeah. But
Okay.
there's three of the apartment buildings are now
already occupied.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yep.
Thanks. I'm so sorry. I didn't even see that.
Oh, that's
So-
okay. Yep. Building permits will be submitted soon for the renovations on the Stone Barn, which is going to be a restaurant, and the farmhouse, which is a bakery. So once he has those plans, he'll forward those to us. Construction work will start on the other restaurant and retail buildings this month, and he'll forward those plans as he receives those. Wegmans will be ready for occupancy by employees next month, and the store will open to the public in February. And then also noted that the pedestrian connection from Stony Hill Road across the I-295 bridge is now under construction. So lots going on over there. So we'll just kind of keep our eyes open there and maybe take a ride over just to review what's going on.
I have a question about with the review of plans. What for the Pennsbury schools? Because a lot of them are not actually located in the township. So would that be? So, for example, they're talking about either renovating or building a new high school now. And they're just starting to look at the plans for that. So, would we be looking at that since Lower Makefield Township's kids go there, or would that be in Falls Township? Or
yeah, that would be Falls Township. So all the permitting process, would go through Falls Township. Obviously, I'm sure their plans would be, public. I'm sure Pennsbury is going to have many meetings and, so we could just make sure that we're, involved in that process, but, we know that they will adhere to ADA guidelines for sure in a school,
Okay. Well, I had just seen in the news that they were starting their planning meetings. I was wondering.
Yeah. But again, all that permitted process would be Falls
Advisory
Township.
board looking
Yeah,
into that.
yeah. Just like, I guess Charles Bame is under renovations now. So that process would be LMT.
Yeah, that's definitely
Yeah.
excellent. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so any new business? Does anyone have anything?
No, I mean, you just brought up a good point. We should be looking at the ADA updates, even though Beam Facilities is an older property. It should be up to ADA guidelines. Maybe we should look at those plans as stuff's happening, because that's got the swimming pool and everything in there. Right?
Well, that's,
I don't know if they're gonna have it. I don't know.
yeah, that's in a different, isn't that in a different building, the pool?
That's what, I thought that's the middle school that was being.
No, Charles Bame doesn't have a pool.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Maybe in
So
Penwood, we got rid of the pool from Penwood.
Yeah. That was in
I'm
Penwood.
dating myself, you guys.
Yeah.
My kids are like 32 now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Here, same.
getting
All
old.
right.
I have one thing I thought of for new business, since we were talking about letters of endorsement. There's something that the library has been doing since COVID, which I think is great. And maybe it would be good to send them a note to thank them and ask them to continue it, is that they will bring your books out to you. So you don't have to walk in and get them. And they
I
still
love
do
that
it.
idea.
Now you have to call ahead. Before you could just, when you pulled in, it was kind of like at the supermarket where you can call and say, okay, I'm here. And now you have to let them have some advance notice, but they still do it, which I think is really nice.
Yeah, especially, if you have a disability and can't get out of the car, you can have that service. So is that out on their website that service is available? Do you know?
I don't know if it's on the website, but when you drive in, you'll see that there's spots that are marked for
Yes.
that.
Okay.
You should call ahead of time if you want that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. So we can just make a note of that in our meeting minutes and all. So that's
Yeah, but I was just thinking maybe if we could just let them know that we really appreciate that they are offering that, because
and that it's if they can continue.
Yeah.
Continue to do that. It is helpful for the disabled community.
Right. It's got a lot more value than just for COVID. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, even if we just send an email to the Bucks County Library system.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just Lower Makefield Township that does that, the Yardley, or if they do that across all of Bucks County systems, library systems. Yeah. Okay.
I didn't see it until COVID, so that's when they started it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, great. I didn't know that existed. All right, so our next meeting is scheduled for December 13th. I was thinking we can just go ahead and cancel that one. I think we're okay to meet every other. So the next meeting would be January, when is that? The second Wednesday. January 10th. Okay. So we'll make that a reorg.
I'll make sure I put that in my book so I don't forget. I apologize. I have COVID brain tonight. I'm so sorry.
Yep. Well, that's what I wrote November 9th on my reminder email, but
I usually it goes into my calendar, and we've just had between a plumber link and it's Pandora's box.
Yep.
Yikes.
Okay.
Well,
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion, and you second, or I'll motion and second, whatever you want to do, Cynthia.
Okay, Michelle, and then Cynthia second. All in favor? Aye. And everyone have a great holiday season.
You
See you
too.
in the new year.
Bye.
You
Take
too.
care.
Feel better.
Feel better.
You guys feel
Thanks,
better.
you too.